time now to review headlines in today's newspapers. Steve, what do you got for us?
All right, Abby, we have This Day on Saturday as the first paper, where the lead story says Atiku, PDP's Feud to end soon. Talks still ongoing with G5 governors. The writers here says its plan to restructure Nigeria does not necessarily imply resource control. That's Atiku speaking. Jonathan denies working for aggrieved PDP governors. You know, there has been this talk that Jonathan will have to step in to reconcile Atiku and the G5 governors led by Wike. Now, people are insinuating that maybe the reason why they have the courage to proceed, to go on, is because they have the backing of President Jonathan. He says, no, I've got nothing to do with it. But Atiku is saying that his plan to restructure Nigeria does not necessarily imply resource control, will be a meaty thing for the media to feast on and analysts to feast on, in the coming days. What precisely does that mean? If you're going to restructure the country, how come that governors or zones will not be able to control, the resource, coming out of their region? Because that's the whole plank that restructuring rests on. What type of restructuring does Atiku have in mind? Those are the kind of clarifications that will be necessary. On top of the lead story, the federal government filed 7 amended terrorism charges against Nnamdi Kanu. Prosecutors, Kanu's lawyers to address court on Monday. I think this speaks to what the Attorney General, Malami, is saying, that yes, there's a court, clear-cut judgment clearing Nnamdi Kanu of the cases, but then that they have reasons why they can't release him. So these are 7 amended terrorism charges against the man, and then we'll see what comes out of it at the court tomorrow. Is there a moral burden there that after the court has ruled, you are still saying that we are keeping him because we are going to amend the charges? That's a naughty one for the AGF, to untie. Yeah. On top of that, Strip, OPL 245, Italian court rejects Nigeria's $1.1 billion compensation demand. That's a story that readers will find on page 5. And importantly, on top of the masthead, Arise News Presidential Town Hall Meeting, Series 2, holds tomorrow. That story is on page 6. And this time around, again, it's still on security and economy, but different set of people. Tomorrow, you will have Omoyele Sowore, who's the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Malam Yabagi Sani, who's the Action Democratic Party's presidential flag bearer, Professor Peter Umeadi, who's the ABGA candidate, and Prince Adewale Adebayo, who's the SDP presidential candidate. 4 of them are expected tomorrow, which of course will be broadcast live, just like the previous one, where you had, Kola Abiola, where you had Atiku represented by his running mate, Peter Obi, and Rabi Musa Kwakwanso. It will be interesting. Series 2, a lot of Nigerians, of course, will look forward to it. And on top of that, on the window, with 52 violence cases in 1 month, NSA Munguno says rogues planning to disrupt 2023 elections. The rider declares troublesome politicians will face the consequences. I think that this is an important intervention by the Office of the National Security Advisor, Munguno, retired general himself, saying that we're aware that people are planning to disrupt. And if you look at what happened in Ogun State, where the INEC office was burned down, things vandalized, PVCs totally burned down, destroyed. It's a cause for concern. And Munguno is saying that any politician that is found culpable, whether you belong to the ruling party or any of the opposition parties, that there will be consequences for that.
Absolutely. I mean, security is of utmost importance, particularly around this time. So it's a very valid call.
Immediately after the primaries, we were saying, it's a long time, with elections in 7 months. And now we are saying that barely 3 months away,
yes.
By February 25, barely 3 months. Today is...
we're midway through a month already.
Exactly, we're midway. So it's almost here, and any concern as to what might disrupt the elections, must be addressed, squarely. And I like the fact that the Inspector General of Police also joined him in addressing that all-important press conference. I think last but not the least, at Alagodaro Investment Summit, Obaseki set 60 billion naira IGR target for 2023. Yet another interesting story on page 6 on what the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, is planning. Maybe we just take a quick look at the cover picture, having with the retired general, IBB, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, that's Atiku Abubakar, the PDP presidential candidate, and his running mate, Dr. Kua, with a few other PDP members joining him to pay homage after their rally, after their campaign in Niger State to the Lord of Mina, shall we call him, former President Ibrahim Babangida. Those are the stories of this day. Today, should we take a quick look at
packed one there? Yes, let's have a look at the Saturday Telegraph. Cool. So, pressure on Kwankwaso to step down for Atiku as the North seeks consensus for ex-VP. And this is the Saturday Telegraph. We also have ex-Kano governor reluctant to back Atiku, prefers Tinubu. This is according to a source. Attack on my convoy in Borno masterminded by governor as well. Of course, this is what the first thing you see when you look at the Saturday Telegraph. Do you want to take a quick one at this one?
Kwankwaso is like the new bride now, because it's obvious to many people that you have three front runners.
Yes.
Bola Tinubu of APC, Atiku of PDP, and Peter Obi of the Labour Party. The fourth major party or the candidate, and of course from what the Arise Town Hall series did, was Kwankwaso of the NMPP. The game will be that anybody who's able to lure Kwankwaso over will definitely have an inroad in Kano State, because he's a lord of the manor as far as Kano politics is concerned. You can't even begin to contest that, even while you have Ganduje of APC as the governor. Everybody knows that Kwankwaso has a lot of role to play. Yes, Shekarau is now with the PDP, former governor, former minister, but he wields a lot of influence as far as Kano is concerned. And you can extend that to Jigawa and to a few other states. So anybody that he backs, it will be an advantage any way you look at it.
And he's well aware of this too.
Absolutely. That's why he's playing his card, very much. We know that he's talking smartly to Peter Obi, but then he weighs chances. If I roll with Peter Obi, what are the chances that Peter Obi will win? If I roll with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the APC, is there the likelihood that he will win convincingly in the north? And if I go with Atiku, because he's a northerner, what will people say that is this all about the Fulani interest, and then another 8 years of Fulani Muslim, in Nigeria. We know that these are master strategies as far as politics
as he should be right now
is concerned. Yeah. But we will see. A lot of people think that he won't go it all alone, and that he will form a strategic alliance later, and whoever he picks will have a clear advantage.
Absolutely. Well, let's wait and see what happens. Now, almost in opposition to what we were talking about earlier. So we have attacks will intensify if not checked now, and this is according to INEC, which calls for decisive action to stem tide and wants political class Nigerians to rise to the occasion. These attacks we're talking about here, how do we juxtapose that against where we just came from?
That's actually the basis. This is actually what Mongono and the IGP of police, were responding to.
Okay.
It was about the fact that INEC's facilities have been attacked, and this is not the first time that the chairman of INEC, will raise that alarm.
To say this,
he's been clear since the primaries that yes, our readiness, making everything available to us is important, but so is the fact that we must have a conducive, environment, conducive climate to prosecute the election, and insecurity will be a major setback, that they're worried about. So with what happened in Ogun State, 2 days ago, that's why the INEC chairman is crying out to say that attacks will intensify if you do not check them out. How do you check it? Bring people to book, apprehend people. Let's know who's on the run. Let's know who we're going after. Otherwise, this will move from Ogun to another state, will move from another state, from one state to the other. If it looks like INEC will not have the capacity, or you are beginning to target even the officials, then, 2023 might be in jeopardy. And from what Mungono is saying, from what we read in this day, he knows that there are a number of people who are hell-bent on disrupting the 2023 election. So INEC is in order, to clear out, shout exactly and say that
in good time. I mean, let the scapegoating begin in earnest. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, of course, we spoke about Nnamdi Kanu. FG to rearraign Kanu files amended 7-count charges. Well, we spoke about that earlier. Should we move on to another?
I think The Guardian is next. Can we look at The Guardian?
Yes.
Where you have, loads of photographs on the cover of The Guardian. Today.
Yes, that's a very colorful cover.
Very colorful. Withheld salaries. ASU, Konwa may close ranks against the federal government. That's an interesting one. The politics that brought Konwa on board. Yeah. If Konwa members are not being paid, ASU members are not being paid or are being paid half salary, it looks like they may have to, find a common ground to now agitate against the federal government. But in all this, again, it is students, that will bear the brunt of this unwieldy thing. The colorful photographs, you may want to know, have to do with the current ongoing National Festival of Arts and Culture, NAFEST in Lagos State. Lagos is the one holding, and it's happening at the National Stadium. All the 36 states of the Federation are represented. This is like the Olympics of art and culture,
right.
In
isn't
Nigeria.
That very lovely to see?
It is. Every year, it holds, one state will host it, where every state will display their cultural, cuisine, artistic, prowess and everything that is unique to them.
I've never been to one, but I would imagine that this must be, as I have never been to one, but I would imagine that it must be an entire tapestry of cultures and color. And
Absolutely. Because it is art, it's not, what this kind of a thing needs is promotion. Let people be aware, let's have segments of it, on live television. Those are the kind of things, the same way that football does. Football, in a way, is also entertaining. And culture should be packaged as an entertaining thing, not static, not, just wearing fabrics and stuff.
Yeah, it goes beyond that.
It should go beyond that.
It goes beyond
because what you are showcasing is not just, you're showcasing your fashion, you're showcasing the culture of every part of the country, and then the idea of brotherliness, bringing people together. If politicians are saying that, we will unify the country, you have something here that is already doing that without any noise. Yeah. But then make quality noise for this kind of program.
Right. And of course, let's not talk about the economic potential of this as well, because that's already sort of been debased.
Oh, yes.
Where we talk about fashion, you're talking about music, you talk about the arts. It's an export in its own right. So it's good to see that there is an amalgamation of some sorts where people can come together and do that.
You're right, Abby. There's one more story here that is interesting still on what we, have read in This Day and Telegraph. The story on the news page 3 of the Saturday Guardian. Buhari orders clampdown on criminal gangs behind attacks on INEC facilities. I think that's what people want to hear. Yeah. Go after them and let us see that you are really prosecuting this case against those who want to undermine INEC, who want to ensure that INEC does not play its role properly. Because as we said, it's barely 3 months to February next year. We can't go into Christmas.
The clock is ticking.
We're almost there. Shall we go to the Punch?
Do we have enough time to do?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the Saturday Punch. So jumping out at you is kidnappings. Something we don't like to see.
No.
Police, Amoteco, Southwest Forest, 48 arrested. We have the Ogun State governor saying, make life difficult for criminals. So again, we're getting this recurring theme of taming insecurity, criminality, and what have you. And this is pretty much during the course of this week.
Yes.
Amoteco, security agencies need more modern gadgets. I would agree with this, and personnel. Well, a more sophisticated and robust, artillery, so to say.
Even the Nigerian police, police officers are crying that they do not have enough, ammunition to prosecute this war. But I like the fact that police and the Amotekun, local security apparatus within the Southwest are now working together, given what is now, rearing its ugly head on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And I think in about 2 weeks now, we have witnessed about 2 or 3 outright kidnappings or attempts at kidnappings with, survivors narrating very horrendous kind of stories. Anybody who succeeds in turning Lagos-Ibadan Expressway into another Kaduna-Abuja Expressway, will have destroyed the, because that's a major gateway. Yeah. Perhaps, the most important, route, highway in Nigeria. You're going to Abeokuta, you're going to Ibadan, you're going, to Benin, you're going further to the east, that's your route. And if you, and I understand that, moving from Lagos and on your way to Ibadan is usually after the interchange, in Ogere. Attention has to be focused on that place. Root them out, and this is what I think that the police and Amotekun is doing. This is the time that we need Amotekun to actually show its worth, because this is at the heart of Southwest. Otherwise, you will have people now recalling what Sunday Igboho was trying to do before he went into political agitation. All he started with was that we cannot allow anybody, whether they're Fulanis or headsmen or any kidnappers, killing people, maiming people, raping people on our land. But then if you look at what Professor Soludo said about the kidnappers in Anambra, for example, he said 100% their investigations revealed that there were no Fulanis, there were no, Hausas or anything. It's local people just, feasting on the evil architecture that kidnappings has become. Is that the case on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway or in a part of Ogun State where this kind of a thing is happening? We know what happened in Owo, in Ondo State, a few months ago. This has to be nipped in the bud before it festers. That road is too important. And you can imagine that, by the time the road is finished, if we are to believe the Works Minister, Raji Fashola, that by December it will finish. Let's even give it first quarter of next year. You don't want a good road commission, and then you are now dealing with a state of insecurity that you are not able to pass the road.
I think as you rightfully pointed out earlier, criminality is criminality, be you Fulani, Yoruba, Igbo, whoever it is. And I think with what the Ogun State governor is saying is make life difficult for criminals until we start to see punitive measures attached to this. People saying, oh no, we're not going to go that way because we saw what happened out there. Until that happens, we're going to keep singing the song over and over again, unfortunately at the expense of what could be either you and I tomorrow. Absolutely. And that's the sad reality.
Absolutely. And this should not be left with just the police and the Amotekun. All the Southwest governors must rise.
Yes.
Because this will threaten all of them, all the 6 states, of the Southwest, including Lagos, including Ogun, Oyo State, those 3 especially. But then, this is an emergency, before it festers.
All right.
The Vanguard is next, isn't it? Saturday, yes, Vanguard. Call your thugs to order, or else. That's Buhari to politicians, again, still on the subject matter of politicians trying to disrupt, the politics.
Peaceful proceedings.
And one takeaway from the interview he granted in London. Yes, that there are 2 sides to it. You may not like the fact that he was responding to what King Charles was said to have asked of him, that do you have a house in the UK? And our president says, no, I don't have any house in the UK. I only have 2 houses.
And those were even him coming into power.
And on social media, and rightly so, people are saying, do you know what you are talking about, sir, dear Mr. President? That was not a question. That was a rhetorical question. Absolutely. It's a joke that why are you always hanging around,
Why do you live here?
Oh, what are you still doing here? But the other part of it is what he said about the fact that what he would like for his legacy to be is to ensure that those who are going about with huge sacks of money and those who are going about with thugs as politicians, that his legacy will be to ensure that they do not succeed in 2023. And I think that that's an important assurance from our number one citizen. I said that clearly. Right. You know, it was very direct in saying that, you know, which in a way is also a way to, you know, for him to endorse the policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria about the need to redesign the Naira. And he was clear about it to say that the 3 months that the law allows the CBN, you know, is enough. How many more months would you need if you are not, if you're just a regular individual and you're not stacking, you know, piles and bales of cash in your house? And that part of this interest is to ensure that such access, you know, to huge amount of cash is not allowed, you know, during the 2023 elections because it will compromise the outcome of the election. So for the president to have said that, I mean, I commend him, and I hope that that will truly be his legacy, because there are a number of challenges, as we know, that people are dealing with and for which he will be remembered. But if he succeeds in ensuring that nobody is allowed to change the course of the elections because they have access to cash or to thugs, I think he will have done very well. You know, and the president should be encouraged in totality, you know, to ensure that.
I think on a fair note, yes, absolutely, it will be something worthy of a legacy. But we must also look at the future. We are still going to end up with cash in the future again. So, of course, that's beyond his control. But for the purpose of where we are right now, it is a laudable effort.
That actually, you know, empower the CBN to deal with. They know them.
Yeah.
I mean, they know them. And the president has an idea, you know, of who these people are. Do the needful, withdraw the cash, let anybody break the law, go after them. That's what it means, basically. Isn't it, Abby?
Absolutely. I'm with you. Don't worry, I'm with you, Steve. I just always think about what's next. All right, let's take one more paper. So we have The Nation, the Saturday Nation. Is that what it is? Well, The Nation today is Saturday. Fresh pressure on Atiku over PDP crisis. Former VP confers with IBB as G5 governors meet in Enugu. Atiku men, candidates disagree over Ayu's fate. New reconciliation moves spearheaded by Taraba Governor, others. And we also have Jonathan denies working with Agri. So this almost mirrors what we had seen on the previous paper.
Yeah.
We also have the Italian court rejects Nigeria's $1 billion compensation request against Eni Shell. We also addressed that earlier. Cool. So, of course, most of the papers all in the same direction today.
Weekend papers, you know, they feed almost on the same thing. But the federal government scouts for assets of 13 Boko Haram sponsors.
That's a big one.
Of The Nation. That's a good one.
That's
the federal government should go that route. But then don't just scout for the assets. You know, unmask them, know them and deal with them.
Yeah, we don't want the scouts in anymore.
Not just the asset, you know, deal with them.